What's up, motherfuckers? 2 days ago, I was playing a mini match of two games against the eight-time Girona champion Jordi Cuadras Avellana. He's a legend of Cataluña chess, of course. Okay, here you have here Wikipedia. It's in Spanish. I cannot translate to English, but I'm going to translate that a little bit. Okay, he's a architect and chess player, FIDE masters, and with two international master norms. Um, this individual scholar Spanish championship. Runner-up individual Open of Manresa, uh, champion of semi-final of Madrid, champion of two Open Internationals, runner-up of semi-final of Spain, fifth in Spanish Championship, eight-time Girona winner. So he's a completely legend of Catalan chess. So now let's analyze my both games against him. Okay, that's the one second. That's the first that I play with. Oh, sorry, that's the second. Okay, first I'm going to show us the first. Okay, the first I play with the white pieces. I open with e4, c5, and c5, knight f3, e6, d4, takes, and he came with a6, and the can Sicilian. And I have another two videos with this same opening. One with against the same player the following day in my channel of reach 20 of rating, and the other in my in one of my best games ever when I became Madrid champion on 2021. So if you want, you can see these videos. Okay, I came with bishop d3, bishop c5, knight b3, bishop e7, queen g4, g6. In the other videos, I explained the move queen g4, of course, but okay, I'm going to explain you again. Um, the queen is attacking the g7 pawn to provoke the move g6, and now open this square. So if in one moment the knight goes to f6, white can be start with bishop h4. Apart, white have attacking ideas with h4, h5 or f4, f5. So this pawn is bad place on g6. Now the queen have made his attacks on g4 and he returned to e2. Bishop f6 was other possible move. He employs against me the following day. So if you want to watch the game, you can see g6. Okay, now the queen makes his tax on e2 and he returned to on g4 and he returned to e2. And here the main move was d6, and against d6 I used to play a4 like in my game against d6, a4 like in my game against Sebastian that I comment in this channel. But he played knight c6 and I make the same move a4, who wasn't the best. The problem of a4 here is that without the loss of tempo of d6, now black can play d5 actively in the center. It's logical because black has moved a knight and I just move a rook pawn, so it was logical that black can break the center with d5. The idea of d6 here a4 is that okay, black is not going to break into tempos. But with the pawn on d7 without losing any tempos, here a4 have not so much sense because black can break on d5. Okay, let's analyze better ways to play for white. My favorite move here was knight c3. That's the best placement of the knight. This line used to be to d2, but specifically in this position was better on c3, d6. Here bishop e3. That's the placement of the pieces, the correct placement. Queen c7, I have f4, b5, bishop e3, bishop b7. And here I can enter with a knight on c5. And if he plays d5, breaking the center, I just can take, and take 3, and white is fine. So that's a better way to play against knight c6 with knight c3. Instead of that, knight c6, knight c3. It's easy to remember. If black moves a pawn, we can move the a pawn. But if black moves the knight, we can just move the knight. If d6, bishop e3 development. If queen f4, f4 cover the e5 square. If b5, just develop and use the c5 square. And if d5, we can just take and h3. Okay, let's analyze. I play e4, and here d5 was the best response. He played h5, wrong mistake. And apart, if you didn't want to play d5, okay, play d6, but h5 in this position have no much sense. Okay, he maybe wants to develop the knight and cover the h4, h6 square with the rook, but yeah, I don't like h5. in some of the camp positions, h5, h4 was a plan, but in this specific position, I don't like. d5 was the best response. Sarcasm, knight f6. Here the idea that I commented previously, bishop a6. Not going back to the castle. You take bishop takes knight e4, queen e4. Black have take the bishop pair, of course. White is still having a good game because this bishop was bad placed here. The king cannot be castled. White have more development, but but Black have less problem than previous. Queen d5, queen e3, not trading queens because the white king was safety because half three was in front of him, and the black king was unsafe because he cannot be castled. f6, knight c3, and queen e5. So white is slightly better here. Instead of that, my opponent plays h5, strange move, and I still just moving the a-pawn. Again, was better just develop the knight because, of course, after a5, still moving the a-pawn. Here, the better response again was d5, of course. But here was slightly better for white because the move a4 was more useful than the move h5. For example, here I can play e5 and with f4, or just sarcasm and maintain the position open. h3 and just trade all like in the previous position or play like one d2 to didn't give the bishop pair and recapture with the knight on d5. Okay, he came with knight d5. My opponent is playing so strange the opening because instead of develop the pieces or break on the center, okay, a4 a5 was not the best plan, but the inclusion of these two moves was completely useful. I am the control of the square b6. He cannot play b5 because I can take. So yeah, a4 a5 was useful, but his move of h5 and knight e5 was a little bit strange. Here I play a knight 95, another mistake. Instead of just develop the pieces, bishop e3. I'm just threatening to win the queen with bishop b6. He should play b6, of course, to win the b7 hold. And here I play knight d2, trying to go with the knight to the b6 square, who is completely normal. But was stronger to place there the bishop. Queen d7, and here place the knight on c3 instead of on d2. Knight f6, f4, knight takes, queen takes. And now the huge problem of black position, sorry, is this bishop. The c8 bishop cannot be developed. That's a thing that I don't understand in this moment. That after bishop b6, queen d7. Of course, I know that the queen on d7 was a strange play, but I don't realize that the bishop on c8 is completely trapped and cannot be developed. So for that reason, that's the strongest way to play for white with a winning position. Okay, I play knight 1 d2, trying to reach b6 with the knight. Knight f6, so castle will move. And he still without castle. Okay, he just short castle and still playing. But he still returning the short castle. Queen c7. Okay, finally play f4 because I didn't want to trade his knight. I just want to trade my bishop. Okay, and after knight takes c3, it's also typical move in the Sicilian and in some friends, they take with the pawn. Now I take in more pawns to the center because one of the problem of the Sicilian and one of the advantage of black in the Sicilian is that black have more central pawns than white. So after c takes d3, I'm having the same central pawns, and apart I open the c5 to enter with the rook and disturb the queen. So in the Sicilian used to be so useful to take with the d-pawn, especially when you are short castle, of course. When you are short castle, you always should take with the pawn. But sometimes when you are long castle, you have the king on b1, you can take with the c-pawn and place the rook on c1. And here he makes another mistake. He, of course, he should just still developing the pieces, but okay, he insists in just moving the pawn. I don't know why. And here, of course, I use all the here my position is completely when I have a four, five pieces developed. Only the a1 rook is not developed, and I'm going to develop in this line with in this move with a tempo. And okay, I have all my pieces perfectly placed. He have this king still on the center. This bishop can develop here. This rook can develop, and a whole on b6. I'm going to finally going to place a knight. Okay, here queen b8, sad move, but now the rook is trapped on a8. Knight c4, d5. He finally break the center. Knight b6 or castle. And here I didn't take the rook because the rook is going to be on a8 for all the time. He cannot develop the rook, and I realized that my b6 knight is better than his a rook. For the reason I just still developing the improving my position. If I knight h5, if he plays knight e5, knight e7, I have that idea. Knight d7, and I take two pieces for a rook. But the huge problem for black is that now I return to e6, and I'm going to capture the rook. Okay, knight h5, rook c4, rook c2, just doubling rooks on the c5, rook e8, rook f1, bishop d7. And here finally I decide to take the rook. I don't know why this is doubling on. I just decide to take the rook to enter on c7 with the rook. Take and rook c7, bishop f8, queen f2, bishop b5, attacking my pawn. I just take this pawn, bishop d3 and g4, knight e7, knight c5, attacking the bishop and attacking on b7. And if he goes back, I can just take on b7. But he played d4, trying to open the position, but the huge problem is that he gave me the e4 square after bishop d2, bishop b5, knight d4. Now I'm landing on f6 with checkmate, so this checkmate is most 98, 94, 95 was possible to what f5, and checkmate is soon, let's see, his queen is not defending, so he resigned here. So that's our first game of the minimax. Easy game. He failed because first he didn't break the center, and he didn't use my mistake of making a4 if I was in the opening. So he should break the center early, and after that he should just develop the pieces with queen 7, bishop d7 or castle instead of play h5, h4, strings plan knight e5. With that you should just try to develop fast because it's not like going to kill you in the queen state. Okay, let's analyze the second game that I played with him. In the second game, I went with the black pieces. Control left. Yeah, okay. I went with the black pieces, and that's another Sicilian. He came with e4, and I just decided to play aggressive with c5 to can create a good game for the channel. Knight f6, d6, bishop b5, knight d7, the Moscow variation, c3. Here, okay, I play knight f6, queen e2, and e5, with a bad move. Here, the best way to play with white, with black, and I play like that in Reykjavik this year. I just don't remember how to play. And it's a big game, so I decided to play 5, but the best way to play was a6, bishop a4, knight f6, b5, bishop e2, bishop b7, and then black plan is going to be example for castle e6, bishop e7, then followed by sword castle, place the rook on e8, no sorry, the rook on c8, sorry, the rook is going to be on c8, the bishop on f8, the rook maybe on b8, and just advance the queen side pawns. That's the black plan. And white have some ideas with c4, with a4 to attacking the opponent. Here c4 was fine. e5 in this plane are so interesting. Instead of that, I just play, okay, knight f6 here was good, but with a6. e5 here was also straight. He can just break the center with d4, and white is fine here. Okay, I go sword castle, again a6 followed by b5, and c4 was better, stopping d4. But okay, I play bishop b7, allowing my opponent to play d4. Sword castle, good move, maintaining the pressure, knight d2. And here I made a great mistake. I know this team. Okay, here was not good to take on d4 because after c8 I give in the c3 square for the knight. For that reason I play sword castle, but after knight d2, always when your opponent have in this pawn structure with e4, d4, c3, and e5, d6, e5, always when white plays knight 92, you should take on d4 because the knight cannot be developed to c3. So with the knight on b1, not because the knight is going to develop by c3. But always when the knight goes to e2, you should take on d4 and take everything and just develop the pieces with rook e8 followed by bishop f8. That's the main idea of this position. It doesn't matter who black plays, now we are going to play bishop f8 and put pressure into the e4 pawn. That's the way to play in this pawn structure when your opponents play 92. This is so important. And I know that, but I don't know in the game. I just play a6, bishop e4, and here again I should just take, and okay, and develop normal. But okay, b5, acceptable, bishop c2, and that's the last call. Just take here, for example, queen c7, attacking the bishop, the move is going to move, the bishop is going to move, it takes b3, for example, trying to develop, and here queen c3, bishop a3, knight c5, bishop take, move the queen, and that is fine here, of course. Instead of that, I play queen c7, giving white the opportunity of just say block the position, playing d5. But okay, the position is equal here. Here c4 would move, not all, because if black plays c4 is going to be, if white plays c4 is going to be better, c4 would move, rook e1, knight c5, knight f1. Here I play d6, trying to break with f5, but here I shouldn't make that. My correct plan in this position, of course, with this pawn extractor, the move f5 used to be a good plan. But in this specific position, I have a good spatial advantage in the queen side. So here the best plan was just playing in the queen side with bishop d7 or a5. And just try to advance these pawns in the queen so that I won the game into the queen side. The move d6 here have not so much sense. Okay, of course, bishop a6 was the most logical. h3, knight h5. That's my plan with d6 and defend the h5 square. Because here if I play knight h5, white have this typical tactic with knight h5, d6. Okay, so play bishop e6, he plays h3, knight h5, finally making my plan. Knight 3, h2, strange move. Because after f5, after he takes, I'm just better with black. I make my goal, who is open the f file. Now my knight is landing on f4. If I manage to take his bishop, my other knight is landing to d3. So now black is completely fine. So let's see the position now. Okay, rook a f8 is coming, knight d3 is coming. This pawn is so weak. Knight f4 is coming. So and then we're going to see how I develop and improve this bishop and put into the attack in a very pretty way. Okay, knight e3, attacking my rook. I, of course, knight f4, landing the knight on f4, queen d1, and here I return to f8. I don't return here because, of course, I want to double rooks, but after knight g4, he's threatening knight h6. I know that I can play king g7 or something, but okay, in a blitz, I just decide to go back to f8, knight g4, h5, just ejecting the knight. Sorry, and now I can play rook f8 because now knight g4 is never more possible. So now it's time to play rook f7 to gain with the rook to f8. Rook f1, rook a f8, doubling rooks, knight c2. Here, I play queen d7, just coming with the queen to attack the king side. And this move have a hidden idea that I'm going to show us 3 moves later. Bishop take, rook take, of course. 93, 93, queen c2. And now, okay, my knight is well placed here on d3, my rook is well placed on f4, my rook is well placed on f8, and my queen is attacking there. So I have all the pieces well placed except of the bishop. So what I can do here, just improve the bishop. Of course, I have this type of move, but okay, here why can just sorry, why can just take here and giving 3 repetitions. So apart, the great move bishop d8 is not only placing my bishop in the attack, it's just giving the queen the open second rank to defend the g6 point. b3, bishop b6. Now I have all my pieces perfectly placed. My bishop is attacking, my knight is in a great square, my both rooks are attacking f2, and my queen is attacking and defending, which is so important in chess. B takes c4. And here, when you place all the pieces well, now comes the tactics. Knight f2. Of course, if he takes here bishop b3 and he should resign. So he tries to give me a check with queen g6. But just thanks to play bishop b8, bishop d8, bishop b6, now I have the queen to defend my king. Queen g7, offering the queen trade. He avoid, and after king h8, he lost some time, but he's completely losing. This bishop was so strong. Sorry, so strong. So that's my match against this Cataluña legend, Jordi Cuadras. The following day, I play another game against him that you have in this channel. So I hope that you enjoy the game. Of course, it was a pleasure to play against Chess Legends. So let's see in the following videos. Bye bye.